That Obamacare putting a dent in the paychecks of many part-time workers. The law's requirement that employers give health insurance to anyone putting in over 30 hours a week has led some to put the cap on how much employees can log. What a shock. I mean, who knew that was going to happen? A new survey revealing 14% of employers have cut hours for part-time workers. I'm joined now by Steve Moore of the Heritage Foundation. He's also a Fox News contributor. I mean, who would have guessed that employers would cut back just enough so that they don't have to do the insurance? I mean, it only makes logical mathematical sense. Steve Moore.
Yeah, well, I've been saying this for 2 or 3 years, that this would be one of the logical effects of this law, Melissa, that basically you've got what we call 29ers. And a 29er is an employer who only hires workers for 29 hours a week or less to avoid these mandates under Obamacare, because you fall off a cliff if you're over 30 hours a week. And we see this, by the way, in the Bureau of Labor Statistics data that is showing us declining numbers of hours worked for workers. And that's a big problem, by the way, because how do you feed your family? How do you pay your bills, Melissa, if you're only working 25 or 28 hours a week?
No, it's so true. And the other thing that came out of this was the old bending the cost curve, where if I had written that in my senior thesis, I would have failed out of college, because it just was not going to exist in this circumstance. I don't know when you can really do that, but they were saying he was going to bend the cost curve down. A survey also found that 77% of companies have higher health care costs this year than last year. So there was no lowering of cost at all.
No, premium costs have been rising for a lot of employers. By the way, I got an interesting set of data myself on one of the effects of Obamacare, which is, people are doing tax preparations now, obviously, as April 15th approaches. And it turns out if you have an income over a certain amount, I forget the exact number, somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 a year, you lose the subsidies under Obamacare. So I've had tax preparers tell me that they have people who are there, doing their taxes for, if they make $65,000 a year, they lose, say, $8,000 of subsidies. So they actually, Melissa, what that means is they have more than 100% effective tax rate on their income. That is to say, they'd have more after-tax income if they earned less money than more money. Right. All of these are kind of perverse incentives that were built into the system.
Yeah. Steve Moore, thank you so much.
By the way, Melissa, you are in my will. You are in my will.
Fantastic. Okay, then you're welcome to stalk me. Fantastic. And
I'm not even a stalker.
No, perfect. All right, Steve Moore, thank you so much. The deadly plan.